Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeff Melnick. I work here for Netwrix, and today we've got an interesting webinar. The Ocean Won't Save You, the GDPR implications for U.S. businesses. We decided to invite someone who has a little bit more experience with some of the GDPR regulations, one of my colleagues from the UK, Russell McDermott.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
So, Russell, I know you were doing InfoSec a couple of months ago. Are you getting a pretty high InfoSec in Europe specifically? Are you getting a pretty high number of queries from people about GDPR at this point?
Yes, certainly. Quite a few of the prospective people visiting the stand are all, certainly all interested around GDPR. When it first started coming out, GDPR was first coming onto the scene. A lot of companies weren't really too bothered about it, but I think a lot of the companies now in the UK are starting to step up the game and realise that they are having to adhere to this compliance. So we're getting a lot of focus around GDPR now.
Cool. So with that, let me start off with the webinar here. So real quick, just a quick housekeeping. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them down into the chat window. We'll be happy to answer them as we can. We'll try to answer them along the way, but worst case, we'll wrap around. We'll have some QA at the end. And speaking of which, just kind of a quick agenda. We're going to go through a number of things. And I'm going to kind of lead us off for just a few minutes before I turn it over to Russell. But we're going to talk about what GDPR actually is, the top 5 things you should know about, who should worry and why, some of the steps you can take to prepare. We'll go through kind of a quick demonstration as well. Russell will kind of drive that through the Netwrix product. And again, we'll do a Q&A at the end, and then we've got a list of resources for you as well, including a couple that I know Russ is going to show you during the demonstration itself. So with that having been said, let me kind of jump in and talk very quickly about what GDPR actually is. So in May of about last year, it was announced that the General Data Protection Regulation was finally approved by the EU Parliament. So it's a little over a year left before we actually have to cut over. Actually, almost a little less at this point. So GDPR will be enforced. It's the kind of the go live date, the X date, May 25th of 2018. So part of the reason for this webinar is if you think you can kind of hide out, that's unfortunately not true just because you're here in the U.S. So the U.S. stands to be pretty heavily affected by GDPR because the new privacy model applies to any enterprise in the world that targets the European market.